Hello everybody, my name is Katie and welcome back to my channel, and for today's video I have a DIY. I'm going to be showing you how to make Zoey's daggers from K-pop Demon Hunters using very minimal and easy to find supplies. So on the screen here, as you can see, I got everything from Michael's and I put the prices of everything on the screen as well, just so you can kind of see how much it costed. So these are the materials that I got. I got some foil cardstock paper, foam board, some like thread, and then some fabric glue, which I'm gonna use for paper now, but I will be using for fabric in another video. So to start off, I am taking my foam board. I'm opening that up. I took a piece, well then I decided, okay, I need to take a piece of paper and to make a little template first. So I made a little template of the dagger. I originally made it ginormous, and then I was like, okay, I need to calm down. So I made it a little smaller, and then I kind of like held it in my hand and I was like, okay, this seems like about the right size, I think. So I took that template that I made and I just traced it 6 times because Zoey has 3 daggers in each hand, total of 6. So then I realized I did not have an X-Acto knife. I tried to cut with scissors and that miserably failed. So what did I do? I got in the car and I went to the store and got an X-Acto knife for like $10. So that was, funny enough, the most expensive component of my DIY, but they didn't really have a good selection. I was like, you know what, it's fine, I'm just gonna get it. So I got it. So I used that to cut it out and that worked a lot better. Granted, I wasn't pushing down hard enough to cut through the full foam board in one swipe. It is a pretty thick foam board that I got. I was trying to find something a little bit thinner, but I wasn't able to at the Michael's that I went to. So I just had to kind of work with what I had. I kind of went over the lines multiple times, and once I was able to see a semi like line on the other side of where I was trying to cut, I would just flip over the foam board and just finish that cut, and that would get it out. The straight lines were pretty easy, as you could imagine. The curve at the bottom was pretty tough. That was my hardest part in all of it. Just mainly, you have to put a lot of pressure to cut through, and then also I didn't want to put too much pressure because I wanted stability in my hand, and if I were to put too much pressure, my hand might go a little bit not correct in the drawing. So I figured it out though. I did that 6 times, and then I got 6 foam daggers. And then so I took my cardstock, which I'm very, very happy about. It's like the perfect iridescent like color / shade / I don't know, light fixturing. English is hard. But I took one of these sheets, I flipped it over obviously to get the backside, and then I traced the dagger on that. I cut it out, and obviously I would need to have 12 of these sheets because I need to cover each side of each dagger, and there's 6 daggers. So instead of just pasting these directly onto the foam pieces, because that's a little boring, I wanted like the shape and dimension of a dagger, and so I kind of drew like the bottom part and then it cut in half because it would be not flat, it would be more like 3-dimensional, right? So I wanted to create that but in a flat prototype. So I did that. I cut the dagger pieces out and I made sure to separate them into piles on which side is which, because the daggers that I drew are 100% symmetrical. I am not perfect in my drawings, very far from perfect actually. So I did my very best, but I made sure to separate them so that I was able to put the papers on the correct side of the dagger. So then I took my hole puncher and I hole punched the bottom of it, which is going to be important for the string that we'll be doing later on. And then I used that as a template to see where the holes would fall on the actual dagger itself. Used my X-Acto knife to kind of get started on making that hole because this foam board was way too thick to use the hole puncher on. It would not fit. I tried. So I had to manually make the hole instead. So then after getting that decently punctured with my X-Acto knife, I used my scissors and just continued to like carve that out pretty much and like rotate them. You can see what I'm doing better than I am describing it for sure. But once I finally got my hole, I opened up my fabric glue. I got that. And I'm just using this as my regular glue because I do not have glue in my apartment here. I moved with very minimal stuff and I didn't really want to buy glue. I wanted to buy the minimum amount of stuff that I could. So in my fabric glue, I was like, yeah, I need fabric glue, so I might as well just use that as regular glue too. So that is what I did. So I glued the pieces on to the front and the back of the dagger. And then I just repeated that for all 6 daggers pretty much. So then once I had all of those done, then it was time to move on to the string. And I had a really hard time finding the string where it started. I could not find it for the longest time. So I had to cut the camera, sit in the couch, just kind of stare at it for a while. And then I finally found it, which is really exciting. So I tried to follow this tutorial to do the actual knot that's on Zoey's daggers, which is like I forget what it's called, but it's like the traditional Korean knot. So I just looked up on YouTube tutorials to try to make it, and I tried. You can see I tried and I tried and I tried multiple times. And then I needed a break from that. So I was like, okay, I'll do the little dangly parts. So I cut out like 20 pieces of string, put them together, and that would be like the dangly part on the bottom of the dagger. So I was like, great, I did that. Now let's go back to the string. And I tried to see if there was like other ways I could do it, like with glue or like folding it in different ways. None of it really worked. And then I was like, okay, maybe my string is too thin, so let me try braiding it. So I braided the string, which granted took a very long time, if you can imagine braiding this thin little string. So I try to make the string thicker, basically, is what the goal was with that braid. And then I attempted the knot again with the thicker string, which worked better, but it would not tighten closed with that. So I just aborted that mission basically and was like, okay, let me see if I can figure out another way. What I ended up doing is unfortunately cut off the screen. So I recorded a little separate segment since I've already finished making the daggers at the time of filming this voiceover. So I basically essentially did a regular knot but didn't tie it all the way and then push the middle together, and that left like 3 loops essentially. And then I just made a 4th loop with the remaining string, wrapped it around the middle one time, and then just glued that all together. Like there was no way that was gonna stay if I tied it and figured out how to tie it. So I was like, okay, we're gonna glue this string together. It was a very interesting way of getting this done, but it got the job done, and I think it looks okay. I wish I could have done the actual knot, but it's okay. It worked out. And then I took that tassel part that I made for my little break earlier, which I'm so sorry. I was really focused, and so this was pulled closer to me, which is unfortunately kind of off screen, but I really just like tied it to the remaining like leftover string is pretty much all I did. Cut off the excess and then just glued it for extra support. So it turned out okay, actually. I think it looked pretty good for my skills that I was given. But anyways, that's the daggers. I hope you enjoyed it, and relatively simple to make. The hardest part was the string, but make sure to stay tuned for future videos. Hit that subscribe button because I have also already went shopping for the costume. So you can't just have Zoey's daggers, right? You gotta have her actual fit, her costume. And so at some point before Halloween, I am not sure when, it depends when I'm able to get it up, I will be making Zoey's costume or outfit. So stay tuned for that. But that is it for this week. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. I post videos every single Sunday, and I hope to see you back again next week. Bye.